What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to my vlog. And I had a friend of mine on Facebook recently post the question, why did Jesus have to die for our sins to be forgiven? And, this is one of those questions that, oddly enough, I hear almost as much from non-Christians as I do from Christians. Now, from Christians, it's more of a legitimately trying to figure this out, like, we need to know what we believe in so we can answer this question. But for non-Christians, it's typically given as a way to try and disprove Christianity almost. Like, you can't give me an answer to this that makes sense. That's why I'm not going to believe in your line of faith. Actually, the way that the question was posted on Facebook, I think gets into one of the major problems and hangups that we tend to have when we're looking at this question. The way it was worded was more to the effect of, why did God have to send his son to earth to die on a cross for our sins to be forgiven? Like, couldn't he have just forgiven us and left it at that with no other actions needing to be taken? And to that I say, yes, God definitely could have done that. God being all knowing, all powerful, a whole bunch of different things like that. God could have just said, okay, sins are forgiven. There you go. The trouble is that we try to look at this question oftentimes from God's perspective and think, okay, if I were in God's position, why in the world would I need to do this? But God is infinite, while we are these tiny little finite creatures living on this planet that we call Earth. So it's impossible for us to understand God's perspective. So I think that's our first and biggest flaw when asking this question. Now, if we try to answer it from what we can actually know and understand as humans, based on various people's experiences, you just look at forgiveness and what that entails. And if you do something that hurts somebody else, if you wrong another person in some way, they can privately forgive you all they want. They can tell everybody but you that they forgive you, and it's still kind of hard to believe it unless you hear and or see for yourself that you are forgiven. So looking at it from that perspective, God had to do or say something to let us know that we're forgiven of our sins, of how we have wronged God and gone against God. By the way, I'm using male pronouns for God just because that's what I'm used to. I'm not saying God has a particular gender. God is not human, not bound by human features. Anyway, little sidetrack done. When it comes to God letting us know that we are forgiven, there had to at least be something like verbal or audible to let us know. Because otherwise, the vast majority of people would have a hard time believing it, just as we have a hard time believing that we're forgiven if we don't hear it from whatever other person we have done wrong to. But going even beyond hearing it, if there is some sort of a visual sign or something that then happens to show us that we are forgiven beyond just telling us, that further increases the likelihood that we'll accept we're forgiven. There had to be some sort of visual sign from God that we're forgiven, because otherwise the vast majority of people would not even possibly think that that's true. If God had just snap of a finger forgiven us without saying a word, that'd leave it really unlikely for us to believe it. If God had merely said, hey, Peter, write down this thing that says people are forgiven from their sins, some people could believe that, but if only if it's only coming in that form, then it's even harder to it's harder to believe than what actually happened, where there was a visual sign seen by a bunch of people that could testify to it. I mean, Jesus, while he was on the cross, even said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." If that's not enough of a sign, then I don't know what else you're looking for. So, again, I'm only touching on one minor little detail aspect of this much larger, more complicated theological issue. Just a very initial answer to the question of why Jesus had to die so we could be forgiven of our sins. A lot of it comes down to just forgiveness, the nature of forgiveness, our understanding of forgiveness, and what that means. God did not need to do any of that. We're the ones that needed God to do it. I hope that's helped clear up some potential questions that you might have had on that topic, if you had questions about that topic. If not, then feel free to put your questions down in the comment section below, and I'll try to respond to those. I might even be making other videos as follow-ups to this that will then answer those. But anyway, I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you next time. Later.